43 seconds. That's how long it took. A Graff jewelry store in London, New Bond Street, one of the most expensive shopping districts on the planet. Security cameras everywhere, armed guards, panic buttons. The kind of place that screams impossible to rob. They walked out with $43 million worth of diamonds in less time than it takes to make coffee. The entire heist was cleaner than a surgical operation. No shots fired, no casualties, no evidence left behind. Just a store full of shocked employees watching two men in suits disappear into the London afternoon with enough wealth to buy a small island. The police arrived 4 minutes later. By then, the thieves were already ghosts. This wasn't luck. This wasn't amateur hour. This was military precision applied to civilian targets. And it was just one operation in a 20-year campaign that would humiliate every major police force on Earth. To understand how this happened, we need to go back to the Balkans in the 1990s, a region torn apart by one of Europe's bloodiest conflicts since World War II. While the world watched Yugoslavia collapse into ethnic warfare, a specific military unit was being forged in fire. The 63rd Parachute Brigade of the Serbian Army. Elite soldiers trained in infiltration, demolition, reconnaissance, and combat operations behind enemy lines. These weren't regular infantry. These were men who could breach fortified positions, disable security systems, operate under extreme pressure, and disappear without a trace. Skills that would make them legendary on the battlefield, and later, legendary in a very different arena. When the war ended, these soldiers came home to a country that didn't exist anymore. Yugoslavia was gone. The economy was destroyed. International sanctions meant no jobs, no opportunities, no future. Men with elite military training found themselves with two options: poverty or crime. Some chose crime, but not the way you'd expect. They didn't become street thugs or petty criminals. They formed something unprecedented in criminal history. A transnational organization that operated like a military unit, with ranks, discipline, and a code of silence that made the Italian mafia look chatty. They called themselves Nothing. The media called them the Pink Panthers. Between 2003 and 2023, they executed over 380 heists across 49 countries. They hit targets in Dubai, Tokyo, Monaco, Paris, Geneva, Singapore, so as everywhere wealth concentrated, they appeared. Total estimated haul, over $500 million. $500 million. More than the GDP of several small nations. Stolen from some of the most secure jewelry stores on the planet by men who treated each heist like a military operation. Their success rate was terrifying. Estimates suggest they completed successful operations in over 70% of their attempts. That's unheard of in organized crime. Most criminal organizations are lucky to hit 30%. How? The answer lies in their background. These weren't criminals who learned to fight. These were soldiers who learned to steal. Every heist followed military planning principles: reconnaissance, intelligence gathering, multiple exit strategies, precise timing, overwhelming force when necessary. Dubai, December 2007, Iwafi Mall, an upscale shopping center in the heart of the city. Inside, a luxury car showroom with Audis and BMWs on display. Expensive, but not the real target. The target was next door, a jewelry store with millions in inventory and a state-of-the-art security system. Motion sensors, pressure plates, cameras with facial recognition. The kind of technology that made conventional robbery basically impossible. The Pink Panthers studied the location for weeks. They noted every guard rotation, Every camera angle, every blind spot, every structural weakness. Then they found something interesting. The wall between the car showroom and the jewelry store was reinforced concrete, strong enough to stop casual break-ins, but not strong enough to stop someone with military-grade demolition training. Two men entered the car showroom during business hours dressed in expensive suits, looking exactly like wealthy customers shopping for luxury vehicles. They browsed, made small talk with salespeople, acted completely normal. Then, at precisely 7:43 p.m., they pulled out sledgehammers. Not guns, not explosives, sledgehammers. They went straight to the wall, the specific section they'd identified during reconnaissance, and started smashing. The sound was deafening, alarms screaming, people running, complete chaos. But chaos was the point. While everyone's attention focused on the sledgehammer assault, they'd already created the breach they needed, just large enough to squeeze through. They disappeared into the jewelry store, grabbed display cases worth approximately $15 million, and escaped through a pre-positioned vehicle outside. Total time inside the mall, 3 minutes and 40 seconds. By the time security figured out what was happening, they were already on Sheikh Zayed Road heading toward a safe house. The car was found abandoned 2 hours later, completely empty and wiped clean. Dubai police were stunned. They'd invested millions in that security system. It was defeated by two men with hammers and military training. But the Dubai heist wasn't even their most impressive operation. That honor belongs to Monaco. July 2007. The Carlton International, a jewelry store that catered to the ultra-wealthy who frequented the Monte Carlo casino district. Security was intense. Armed guards, reinforced display cases, direct connection to Monaco police. The principality had one of the highest police-to-citizen ratios in the world. Response time measured in seconds, not minutes. It didn't matter. A lone man walked into the Carlton wearing a suit that probably cost more than most people's cars. He looked around casually, checked his watch, then pulled out a handgun. Nobody moved. The gun was a prop, empty and useless, but nobody knew that. He calmly walked to the display cases, used a small pry bar to pop them open, and started filling a bag with diamond rings, necklaces, and watches. The most expensive pieces in the store. Moving with practiced efficiency, no wasted motion. The whole time, his eyes tracked every person in the room, reading body language and watching for anyone who might play hero. Complete situational awareness maintained under extreme stress. 78 seconds later, he walked out with $103 million worth of jewelry. Yes, $103 million. That's more than most banks keep in their vaults, stolen by one man in under 90 seconds. Monaco police responded within 3 minutes and found nothing. No getaway car, no witnesses who could identify him, no forensic evidence. He'd vanished into the crowded streets of Monte Carlo like smoke. This heist became legendary in law enforcement circles for a simple reason. It shouldn't have been possible. The investigation went international immediately. Interpol got involved. FBI sent forensic teams. European law enforcement agencies coordinated like they were hunting a terrorist cell. Because in a way, they were. The Pink Panthers didn't operate like traditional criminals. They operated like an insurgency with cells that didn't know about other cells. Communication through coded messages and money laundering networks that spanned 3 continents. And above all else, Zavit. Zavit is a Serbian word that doesn't translate perfectly into English. The closest approximation is vow of silence, but it means something deeper. It's a blood oath, a code that transcends personal interest. In military context, it meant never abandoning your unit. In criminal context, it meant never cooperating with authorities, ever, no matter what. This code made them nearly impossible to infiltrate. Police couldn't flip members, couldn't offer deals, couldn't break the organization from the inside. Every captured member stayed silent, served their time, came out, and went right back to work. Interpol estimates that over 50 confirmed Pink Panther members served prison time between 2003 and 2020. Not one cooperated with authorities. Not one revealed operational details. Not one broke Zavit. This level of discipline is virtually unprecedented in criminal history. But it was also their weakness. Because while Zavit kept them safe from police, it also made them rigid, unable to adapt when the world around them changed. By 2010, a generational divide emerged. The original members, veterans of the Yugoslav wars, were aging into their 50s and 60s, still capable but slower, less willing to take extreme risks. The younger recruits saw things differently. They hadn't lived through war, hadn't experienced military discipline. They grew up watching heist movies and thought they understood the game. They didn't. The older generation operated with extreme caution, planning every heist for months, considering every contingency, testing every escape route repeatedly. The younger generation wanted faster operations, bigger scores, more spectacle. Paris, December 2008. 4 young recruits hit a Harry Winston boutique during peak shopping hours. The robbery succeeded, but they made critical mistakes. One recruit removed his disguise too early, and security cameras caught his face. Another left DNA evidence on a display case. Basic errors that experienced members never made. Within 6 months, 3 of the 4 were arrested, and during the investigation, police found connections to other heists and members. The network started becoming visible. More young recruits kept making similar mistakes. A robbery in Switzerland, where someone used a personal cell phone near the target location. A heist in Japan, where a member was spotted on social media during reconnaissance. Small errors that accumulated into major vulnerabilities. By 2015, the arrest rate had tripled, not because police got better, but because the criminals got sloppier. The legend of the Pink Panthers had created arrogance in younger members who thought the name alone would protect them. It didn't. Tokyo, March 2017. Members didn't do proper reconnaissance and triggered silent alarms immediately. 3 members were arrested at the scene. During interrogation, one member almost broke, almost started talking before being transferred to Serbian custody. The fact that he even considered it showed how much the code had weakened. Zavit was crumbling, and with it, the organization. The older generation began to retire, not arrested or killed. They just stopped. Took their money and disappeared into quiet lives in Serbia and Montenegro. They'd survived 2 decades of the most intensive international manhunt in criminal history and knew when to walk away. The younger members didn't have that wisdom. Between 2020 and 2023, over 30 Pink Panther members were arrested across Europe and Asia with prison sentences ranging from 5 to 25 years. The organization that once seemed untouchable was being dismantled piece by piece, not by brilliant police work, but by their own lack of discipline. Today, Interpol still maintains an active task force tracking Pink Panther activity, but the heists have stopped. The organization exists more as a legacy than an active threat. The total recovered jewelry, less than 10% of what was stolen. Over $500 million worth of jewelry stolen, and police recovered maybe $50 million. The rest is gone, sold and melted down, scattered across the world through networks that still exist, but no longer operate. At their peak, the Pink Panthers represented something terrifying. What happens when elite military training meets organized crime? When men who were trained to defeat armies apply those skills to defeating security systems. They proved that the most sophisticated security in the world can't stop someone with the right training and enough patience. Every jewelry store on Earth changed their protocols because of them. Reinforced walls, better cameras, faster police response, armed security became standard. The security industry was revolutionized by their operations. But here's what nobody wants to admit. It might not be enough. Because somewhere right now, there are veterans from various modern global conflicts with training similar to what the Pink Panthers had, facing similar economic situations with no jobs, no opportunities, and skills that only translate to warfare or crime. What happens when they start making the same calculations? The Pink Panthers showed that a small group with military training can operate successfully for decades, despite international manhunts. That's not a comforting thought for anyone in law enforcement or anyone with something valuable to protect. So what can you do? The Pink Panthers forced the security industry to evolve, proving that traditional measures need constant updating against professional threats. Keep high-value items in bank safety deposit boxes, where multiple layers of institutional security provide better protection. Avoid displaying wealth in public or on social media, since sophisticated criminals select targets through months of surveillance. If you work in high-value retail, know your emergency protocols because every second matters when professionals hit a target. The key lesson: invest in updated security systems and don't make yourself an obvious target through careless displays of wealth. If this story made you realize how vulnerable we all are to organized crime, hit the like button. If you want to understand more about how military expertise translates to criminal enterprises, subscribe to the channel. Until then, keep your valuables locked up, and remember, the most successful criminals aren't the ones in movies. They're the ones you never hear about until it's too late.